you want to stand up, and if you have a memory you'd like to share, just raise your hand and don't be shy. Dick?
Sit down, man. Actually, I've got quite a bit here, so and I'm going to have to read it to you. It took me a while to write this.
You want me to sit down?
No, it's okay. Hi, I'm Dick Donnelly, one of Bev's boys, one of Bev's brood, Bevy, whatever you want to call it. There's a bunch of us. On behalf of the family, I'd like to thank Eric for officiating and all the friends in attendance, however big or small or past, for your roles in our mom's life, or how recent. I see some familiar faces just from the old church days. John Logston, I can remember some of those. It's been decades. And hi, Dan. We graduated together. I had a lot of trouble putting together Eulogy. Went back and forth between contemplating what Mom would want and say and trying to come up with words that represent the shared feelings of love, devotion, and admiration my siblings and I and the rest of the family at all levels all feel towards our mother. So I settled on a little of each and spoke a little bit of what I think she might want to say too. Someone once stated that a mom holds your hand for a little while but holds your heart forever. Well, I hope they have juggling lessons up there, because Mom is saddled carrying around 6 of them. Mom had a wonderful personality and she loved people. She truly embodied the old Will Rogers quote, "A stranger is just a friend you haven't met." Her love of life and people was so foundational to her nature that with just the smile on her face and the friendliness in her voice as she introduced herself, she could brighten up any room she walked into or rolled into, and immediately made friends or made people feel at home. Mom also had a delightful sense of humor. If you were around her for any time at all, you've most likely been subjected to funny family stories or predicaments. You couldn't be around our mom without laughing, so feel free to laugh if you get the urge. This wouldn't be a eulogy about our mom if you didn't feel like you were going to crack up at least once. To the end, Mom was always able to find humor in any circumstance, and she was always able to crack a joke or laugh at herself in ways which frequently ended up with a bunch of us laughing in stitches, if for no other reason than because her laughter was so contagious. In the hospital, one of the several nurses that fell in love with Mom came in and, as required by her routine checklist, said, "Hi, sweetie, can you tell me your name?" Mom looked at the nurse, and with paralyzed vocal cords and with her breathing treatment mask on, she rasped and mouthed out the word, "Yes." Then as she looked at the nurse in anticipation of her reaction or possibly the next question, she busted out into one of her trademark and highly contagious laughs, complete with squinted eyes and mouth pulled wide open by her dimples and upper body shaking, but this time with no sound coming out. And according to my sister Diane, who witnessed this interaction, even without the sound, Mom's wonderful cackle, no matter how juvenile the humor, was just as contagious. And just that description of Mom's laugh is enough to bring a smile to the face of anyone lucky enough to be blessed with the memory of it. Another foundational personality characteristic of Mom was that she was fun, and she taught us how to have fun. Mom loved roller coasters and carnival rides. If you noticed on the slideshow, I caught that one of her in the yellow scrambler. That expression explained it all. Mom was a fighter. She stood up for what she believed was right, and she didn't back down or shy away from anyone or any issue when her cause was just. Mom taught us not to worry about what others think of us or what we do, but what God thinks of what we do. Mom had a wonderful flair for finding humor in all types of the humbling daily life circumstances, both random and self-inflicted, that seemed to plague our family. Of course, I'm quite sure that humbling circumstances generally plague all families at some time and at some level. However, a lot of families can be reserved or embarrassed enough by these humbling circumstances that they let the stories fade away or go unspoken. Our mom had a flair for telling her humbling life stories in a manner that could have you laughing so hard you could be at risk of having the tears run down your leg. And that was partly due to the story and partly due to her telling of it. I only wish we had documented them for posterity, because time has a way of crowding out old memories as it makes way for creating new ones. My brother Joe reminded us yesterday of the time he was running late for church, and he was with Phoenicia at that time. And he was pushing his luck by going about 5 miles an hour over the speed limit on Pine Street through Central Point. When all of a sudden a car whizzed past him and left him in the dust. Despite the rate of speed, Joe was able to make out the familiar-looking little gray-haired perpetrator peeking over the steering wheel. Mom didn't like to be late for church either. And the way she drove, she was going to have a meeting with Jesus one way or another. Then Joe also reminded me of one I had forgotten. When I had gotten my own ticket and went into traffic court and found my mom sitting in there waiting. I'd kept my ticket a secret from her, and I said, "How did you know I got a ticket?" And she said with a big smile while trying to withhold a loud cackle in the courtroom, "I didn't." See, she so disliked being a bad example to us, she didn't tell anyone about her ticket either. Her speeding crime on that occasion may have been so egregious that she couldn't sweet talk her way out of it with the cop, but that day she smiled and had her way with the judge, who dropped her ticket. Of course, he didn't drop mine. "Hey, she's my mom." Mom smiled at him. Her good humor and perspective has been handed down, I think both genetically and by example, and is well established as a foundational norm among and throughout our families. However, also handed down was the proclivity for the rest of us to routinely find ourselves in humbling circumstances that also turn into memorable classic stories to be retold about round campfires. One of the most memorable for me was at this very church. About 25 or 30 years ago, and that was back when everybody faced that way, I was visiting from out of town. Mom had called me to get me up to get to church, and I was thinking about not making it, but she had a way of encouraging us. So I popped into the ongoing service a little late, and I quickly found a place next to my brother Joe, who was sitting in the pew directly behind Mom. It was a small congregation in that day. You knew everyone's face, and even if you couldn't name all their names, you could name the family names of most in attendance. After sliding into the pew, I decided to let my mom know I'd arrived, so I quickly and quietly leaned forward and playfully burrowed my nose through her trademark curly and frizzy hairdo until my nose stopped in the opening of her ear, and I signaled my arrival with one of our family's trademark pig snorts. As I was returning to my upright position, my brother Joe smiled at me with a joy rarely seen and said, "That isn't Mom." My life passed before my eyes as the poor woman, speechless and aghast, slowly turned to face her babbling and apologetic assailant, as I tried to provide a rational explanation for an event that defies rational explanation. As it turned out, it was that poor woman's very first visit to the church. But surprisingly, it was not her last. So it must have been good for her, too. She's not here, is she? It was a proud moment for my mother on that occasion when the student surpassed the master, getting into humbling predicaments. Our family recently bought family shirts, and darn it, I forgot to bring it, but I was going to show you, for helping people caught unawares when such things occur, when the unexplainable happens when we're around. It's a shirt that says, "It's a Donnelly thing, you wouldn't understand." I thought about what Mom would want to share with our family and those in attendance on this occasion, and what I believe she would want to be expressed, all centers on relationships. The first and most important Mom would want to emphasize is our personal relationship with the Lord. Mom was a prayer warrior, who continuously covered her family and friends in prayer, with overtime and prayer chain notification for those circumstances that called for circling the wagons. Mom wholeheartedly placed her faith in the scriptures and the promise of the free gift of salvation for all who accept Christ as Lord and Savior. Mom accepted Christ and was baptized in this church 40-odd years ago, and it was the deepest desire of our mom for all of her family, especially, to accept Christ and have a scripturally founded and continuously growing relationship with the Lord. Because of her faith, our mom wasn't afraid to die, because it was her scripturally founded belief that in accordance with God's will and timing, she either is or will be sharing eternity in heaven with the Lord and all others who have accepted that free gift. I remember talking with Mom about a Reader's Digest story I once read, titled, "Why I Am Not Afraid to Die." It talked about how a baby in utero loves its existence because that's all it knows or understands. No matter how much the baby's father might try to introduce himself and communicate and explain things to the baby from the outside, it's impossible, because it's the baby that is incapable of understanding the father from the environment in which it resides. Sights, sounds, pressures, and temperatures may indicate something's going on out there, but in order for the baby to even begin the process of growing to understand the father, the baby has to leave the only environment they understand and have grown to love. The baby has to, the birthing process is a cruel eviction from a warm, soothing, well-regulated environment with no hunger, crying, or pain, and constant physical contact, into a cold, bright, loud environment with new feelings of hunger, crying, pain, and physical separation. The baby doesn't like the transition one bit, and fears and fights that transition with all it has, which isn't much, because like it will be in death, we don't have much control or say in the process. Although Mom did tell me that I personally put up a good fight. Her one broke with me, and I hung in there for another month before they could get me out. Back before they induced. But, of course, once we sample the new freedoms and experiences in our new environment, we would never choose to return to the previous existence. The analogy of the story, of course, is that the process of dying could very well be just like the process of being born. We try to hang on to the existence we've come to understand because we still, like big babies, greatly fear the unknown. And in our present existence, according to the Bible, we aren't capable of understanding what's in store for those who accept the Lord. 1 Corinthians 2:9 states, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love Him." The next most important relationship-focused Mom would wish for us is to ensure we maintain and nurture the supportive and loving connections that exist between her children and her children's families and our friends. I know that resonates like an unnecessary statement that goes without saying, but it's my opinion that if Mom were here giving advice or admonishing us one last time, that would be right here on her priority list. Mom loved her family. To her family, her family was her greatest earthly blessing, and her lifelong labor of love and her pride and joy. Our mom made our family into an example of what a family can be when her kids are raised to be counted among each other's best of friends. Every meaningful tradition in our lives started with Mom at the lead, and family is a central focus, whether they were holiday get-togethers, trips to amusement parks, camping, playing games, or just hanging out. When we get together with family, what we normally do is sit around and talk, or trade funny stories or memories, play games, interact with the newest additions to the family tree, or just sit around and not talk. It doesn't matter what we do when we get together. What matters is getting together. Mom loved nothing more than the times we've shared that included maximum family attendance, and especially those occasions that brought together all of her children who lived 2,500 miles apart, like this event. If Mom is watching over us now, she's smiling big and loving every minute of it. The final relationship focus I think Mom would lecture us to focus on is our relationship with ourselves. Mom's positive, optimistic, and fun-loving character was a textbook example of what a positive outlook can do for longevity. Any one of a long list of ailments that had tormented her over the past couple decades could have taken her from us a while back. But like the little Energizer bunny that she was, she just kept bouncing back and going and going and going. Some of us partially attribute her recurring ability to bounce back to her growing focus on nutrition. Cutting edge discoveries and supplements and alternative and holistic methods of healing. Mom hated school as a young girl, but she loved reading and became a lifelong learner. And much of her later learning was focused on nutrition and those natural remedies and such. Of course, Mom, just like some of the rest of us, was far better at preaching a healthy focus than she was at successfully living. But she would admonish us not to wait until it's too late to give our diets and our exercise habits a hard look. She held that God's job was to judge, and her job was to speak the truth in love. Sometimes the truth came out with a little less wordsmithing than it may have needed, but deep down you knew she only ever told you what she learned, thought, and believed because she loved you. God blessed us with our mom for a very specific amount of time, an amount of time that only He foreknew. I know that our mom is in heaven, not because she was a good person, but because she knew and accepted Jesus as her Lord and Savior. Mom had lost the ability to enjoy almost every physical thing life on this planet had to offer. We only miss our mom for only selfish reasons, for our own selfish reasons, and for the little ones who will not be blessed with the sweet memory of her personality, her smile, and her laugh. But she had no unfinished business here. And she couldn't possibly have made us feel more loved. And blessed. I thank the Lord for the peace that passes understanding and the knowledge in my heart of hearts. That's not goodbye, but I will see her again and share with her whatever eternity with the Lord has in store. And as written in Proverbs 31:28, her children have arisen. I call her blessed. Actually, I wanted to announce something. Now, if you don't want to come up and read it, you don't have to. You'll do it? Just speak. Hold it down here.
Hello? Oh, okay, it's on. I'm used to just regularly speaking out. This is new technology. I'm Madison Winchell. I am Beverly's great-granddaughter, one of them. And I wrote an autobiography of great-grandma. I sat with her for a while and asked her a whole bunch of questions, and she gave me a pretty good amount of her life story, and I wrote it down, and I managed to print out a couple copies for all of her kids, and Uncle Dick wanted me to read it. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
It's 4 pages.
Absolutely.
Okay. I can read fast.
Double space.
So I'll just start. It's in first person, by the way. I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
It's okay.
A little nervous. Michigan, on August 19th, 1930. I was delivered by Dr. Pirowski, who I only knew later because he delivered my first 2 sons. I was very elusive and a cunning child. When I was small, I used to play in the backyard and run rampant and be pushed in a little buggy by my grandmother. I used to pick the seeds from the flowers on the front porch and stick them up my nose till Grandma made me blow them out. I'm surprised I never stuck one down my windpipe, which was so good that my grandma would have to resuscitate me. I was practically raised with my grandmother, and she was a very caring person, probably more than my mom. My mother was was a busy woman. She was a model for Vogue, which was big back then, for it was, I don't mean to be insulting, but it was kind of the beginning of the media age. I don't mean her to sound old. I'm sorry. My mother eventually had a nervous breakdown because of stress. Being a model can be stressful for a woman, always having to worry about what you look like and having to impress people. Her medication consisted of vitamin B, but she was allergic and broke out in boils. Ouch. It ended her career and she was never the same. My father I loved very much. I remember listening to him sing by the campfire when we went camping. He has such a wonderful voice that I always loved going camping. I also loved it including because we roasted marshmallows and went fishing, two of my favorite things to do. We camped at Lake Huron once. I remember it because I think that was where I caught my biggest fish. I later met my first husband on a blind date at the movie theater. My friend orchestrated the date, so I had my doubts, but she begged me into going. I was only 14, and he was 17. So scandalous, I know. His name was John Samples, and he was very handsome. I think I fell in love with him instantly the moment I saw him in that dark theater, and he felt the same. Okay, while the movie was playing, we moved to the back so no one could see and kissed. This got a little awkward for me. Oh, no, it was sweet. I felt on top of the world, even more so when we got married that same year, both at a very young age. It was only 3 days before I turned 15, and it was in Russell, Kentucky. Since they're both so young, we lived with his mother in St. Albans, Virginia. I remember his mother was a very nice woman and cooked very well, too. She had a very lavish house, and we were cozy. My first son, Eddie, was born in 1946, delivered by Dr. Pirowski. My second son was born 2 years later. His name was James, and born in 1948. I was 18 years old by that time, and I had worked at S.S. Kresge Dime Store. It was a lonely place and very mundane. We had nothing to do but fold clothes, which I was complacent about doing. I eventually quit working there, thank the Lord, but was not working for a while. Sadly, I remember my father died on Eddie's birthday when he turned 2, on February 10th, 1948. What made things worse that year was I found out John cheated on me with another woman, and I wanted to just ignore the rumor, but I found out it was true. I divorced his sorry butt, but we were still friends. Although I wish I had beaten up his car first, but that would just put a stink on my reputation. On one happy evening while I was out dancing, I met an old friend of mine, Richard Donnelly, who I had known since childhood. He used to color pictures of me. I used to embellish my drawings to make them seem more interesting. Wow, I know, okay? He had just broken up with his girlfriend and asked to dance with me. I was 24 at this time and was trying to hold a job as I raised Eddie and James. So I thought, what the heck, it was just a dance. I married him a little while later.
Wow.
It might have been very impetuous to marry him and have 4 kids, but life was full of laughter in my family. Diane was born on June 30th in 1955, or better known as Miss Winchell or Grandma Bodie to me. Yes. Joe was born on September 17th, 1956, and Mary, which I corrected the date. She gave me the wrong date. And Mary was born on February 3rd, 1958. The last, but not least, was Dick, and he was born on October 20th, 1959. Those are the right dates, right? Okay.
Close enough. No,
Okay.
it's right.
My sweet little angels, who are now fully grown and all beautiful with loving families of their own and long lives ahead of them. I have a memory of one time when I was 35. I had a vicious horse that I loved riding, and this one time the reins broke on the horse and I was thrown off. Now I know why you guys wanted to eat horse that one time. I was riding along the countryside with a friend when the reins snapped. My horse stopped abruptly and I was thrown off. I was scared and laying there, and I had hurt my leg pretty bad, and I wouldn't be able to ride again, so I never did, because I was afraid I would injure myself even worse than that. Eventually, in 1961, Richard died on October 10th. I had a maelstrom of different emotions wash over me when I found out. I was awfully miserable at first, and I was angry for God taking him away from me, and I was depressed for all that had happened to me. After the horse, Richard dying, it caused me to want to move to California in 1967. I needed to get away from everything and start anew. I started working at Road River Orchards and became close to my boss, Bob. I'm still not sure what happened, but I think I was asking him to go on a date with me, but he thought I'd asked him to marry me. He liked to move fast, I'm guessing. But we got married anyways and lived happily together. I was surrounded by my family and new friends from my job, and I felt nothing could go wrong. Sadly, not everything goes right for a really long amount of time. Sadly, it was such a short time till he died in 2005, making me a widow for the second time. I often wondered why men kept leaving me to be with God. Was it me, or were they just destined to go before me? For now that I am gone and with the Lord, I left behind these words for my great-granddaughters for you to write today. And to share my life, okay, I don't think I can finish. And to share my life to as full as it could have been. I lived, and that is all that matters, and my life was full of love and happiness. I faced many trials and grief in my life, but I am now at peace and will be forevermore. I am happy with my life and how it has turned out. Now I am no longer among us physically. I will always be with whoever keeps me in their heart.
Thank you, Maddie. Better, Matt.
Hey everybody, I'm Dick's son, Tommy, also known as cousin favorite, or grandson favorite, or nephew favorite, or whatever you like to choose. But I thought I could pull, the lovely thing about technology these days, brings back memories, of especially Grandma. Go ahead and play it for you. It's in the voicemail. But this is just Grandma. Every year, you could always count on a phone call from Grandma, and every year I'd purposely not answer, just so I can get the message. And this is what sorry, I'm just trying to...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tommy. Happy birthday to you. Hope you have a wonderful day. Love you. Grandma Chuck.
It's just so warming,
Yep.
I'd always want to answer the phone as soon as she called, but I was like, no, I know good song's coming, I always had great memories with Grandma and being a little kid. A lot of our family stories aren't really appropriate for church. Even though I want to tell them so bad, that's what gets me in trouble as a kid. But, I had a lot of great memories with Grandma, and it's difficult being from California, not being here for every family event, but it was just amazing, looking at pictures and seeing how much this family really is just amazingly strong and just always there for each other. And tons of great memories. I mean, even as a kid, some of those pictures when we went to Michigan. I was pissed at my dad because I had baseball all-stars, and he's like, nope, you're going to Michigan for a family reunion. And didn't want to go, but man, it turned out to be such a great trip, and I'm glad I did, and fun memories out there. But that just goes to show you how strong this family was, and that was my lessons in life of what family really means, and how strong you need to be there. And these lessons passed down, hopefully to my little brothers, it'll be the same thing, just generation after generation. I'm just going through stories in my head. I guess a good one we were, when I was a kid, we were hiking up Mount McLaughlin, and it was, my dad and grandma went up half the way, and then I couldn't finish the trip while they finished up to the top, and they left me down there with her, and so she was trying to keep me busy while grandma passes out, goes to sleep, and I'm looking for a log, and I had to wake her up, and I'll just leave it there, but that was just a funny memory. Messy, but funny. And
We're prepared for the paperwork.
yeah, then she was, it was actually a leaf. We were very outdoorsy that day. That was good times. But I always enjoyed coming up and seeing the family, and especially grandma's warm smile and laugh every, camping trip, every family event. Her face really does just light up when she sees you, and makes you happy. And I was always the one fighting to push her down the aisle, or not push it, I roll her down the aisle, or walk her down the aisle at family weddings, or a camping trip whenever she needed to get a roll over to the bathroom. I'd love to be first in line. So those are good times spent with grandma. And the thing I'd like to thank most is just the family, the aunts and uncles. I'm here for grandma, but I'm also here for the family. I'm so thankful for all the aunts and uncles and cousins and then extended family. It's just so great to have you guys, and love you all. But I'll just leave it at that before I can't make it through anything else. But love you guys.
Okay. We're going to move on, and I know that